In this wonderful book called Peaceful Piggy Meditation by Kerry Lee MacLean, she starts by saying, sometimes the world can be a busy, noisy place. Sometimes it feels like you always have to hurry, hurry, hurry. And you feel like you can't slow down even when you're sitting down. She goes on to say, so it's good to have a peaceful place inside. It's good to meditate. Meditation is a wonderful way to cultivate silence in your life. There are also several other ways. So let's get into how to be more silent in your life and all the amazing benefits. Hello, it's Mira Binzen here, author and co-founder of Global Family Wellness, along with my mother and my sister. We are here to give you resources from the holistic principles of the science of consciousness so that you can live your best life. Silence is a very powerful tool in our repertoire. And silence can be super uncomfortable. We live in a busy, noisy world that was addressed at the beginning of the beautiful meditation book for children. And to counteract that, we need to work to cultivate silence in our lives. Now, when you first find yourself in silence, it may be very uncomfortable. When everything slows down and quiets down, you can start to feel boredom or loneliness or other uncomfortable emotions. Now, it's not like those emotions aren't there in the busyness of the world. They just aren't being met. They're kind of sitting in a dark corner and they're not really being experienced by you, but the energy of those uncomfortable emotions exists within your experience. So to begin your exploration of silence, it starts with a mindset. The mindset you can cultivate is that these uncomfortable feelings that might come up when you're spending time in silence, think of it like a stray cat who's coming up to you. And the cat just wants to be pet. Maybe it needs a bowl of milk. It wants to be seen and heard and understood, like everything and everyone, including all of your emotions. It might feel, if you start paying attention to and feeding these uncomfortable emotions, that they'll get bigger and bigger and more overwhelming. But that's not true. As you sit with uncomfortable emotions, they will have had their experience, their energy will have come into bloom, and it can then dissipate. So that's the first thing to understand about being silenced. Yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar, and whatever you start to be aware of in silence is ultimately going to lead you to wonderful self-understanding. So how can we practically start to include more silence in our lives? First, you want to be aware of how noisy and busy your life is, and then choose areas where it feels easy. I don't recommend starting with the hardest place first. I recommend starting places where it's like, oh, that's not going to be too hard to do. So maybe for you, that's while you're driving. If you find yourself driving alone or even with the kids in the car, instead of having the radio going on in the background or the devices beeping and clicking and chiming, can you just try driving in silence for 10 or 15 minutes? If it's a long car ride, even better. And just see how it feels. And do it because you want to. Do it because you can, not because you have to or you're supposed to. And notice how it feels. And be like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Let's try that again. So start with little segments of silence. Another place for silence that we love is silent breakfasts. Having silence in the morning is really special because it gives us time to just sort of to be with ourselves, to not have a bunch of input, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what's going on around us is like food, and we digest it. Our nervous system digests our sensory experiences just like our digestive system digests food. And if we're constantly taking in input, it can be stressful. It can be overwhelming. So to remove input is a great way to feel more calm, feel more at peace. So practice with it, have fun, try it. Like, where can we have silence? One of the things I love about living in the snowy north is that when the snow does fall, it muffles everything around, and everything is so much more quiet because there's this like padding around everything. And I love to be outside after a freshly fallen snow, and it's just crystally clear and bright and quiet. It's exquisite. So nature is a wonderful mentor, a guide for you for silence. Nature can be very loud, thunderstorms and earthquakes and trees creaking in the wind. And it can also be very silent. We have a fun activity in our book, Anxious to Awesome, a practical guide for the whole family. It's called a sound map. So we sit outside with a piece of paper and some drawing utensils and listen with our eyes closed or open. It's up to you. And like, oh, I hear a bird in the tree. I hear something rustling in the leaves. Way off in the distance, I heard a coyote. And so as you listen to more soft, quiet sounds and more distant sounds. And so you're not in total silence, but there's a real quiet because you're listening carefully to nature. And so this has many benefits. Time in silence can improve memory and concentration. It can reduce cortisol, and it can increase creativity. So you're already getting the benefits of silence in your daily meditation, which is just 2 minutes to start. And if you're new to meditation, we have a whole series of easy beginner meditations for families. So be sure to check out that playlist on our channel. So you're sitting every day in silence as a practice, and it has wonderful benefits. And then you can start to include some other times in your life where you have silence in the morning or silence during a meal. We do retreats where we teach people how to share these practices with families, and we have a silent breakfast. It's a 7-day retreat. And at first, it's a little bit uncomfortable because you're sitting at a table with someone you could probably have an awesome conversation with, and you're in silence and you're eating, and there's a person there, and there's sort of this social obligation to strike up a conversation, but we have an agreement that we're going to have a silent breakfast. So from the time people wake up, whenever that is, through breakfast until we come into our first session of the morning, everybody holds silence. And when we talk about it during the training and at the end, people love it. It's their favorite part. They're like, I'm going to implement this at my house when I get home. They appreciate how beneficial it is just to have that peace and quiet. And so because we do have so many electronics and there's so much input coming into our lives, we have to put a stake in the sand and make room for silence in our lives. One of the best benefits to practicing silence, to finding room in your life for silence, is that you begin to listen to your own inner wisdom, your own true self. We are by nature intuitive. We are always receiving messages that are true to us, that are coming from our authentic selves. And the busy chatter of our mind and the busyness of the world around us prevents us from hearing that inner wisdom, that inner truth. So becoming more habitual about silence in your life, daily meditation practice, daily walks in nature, just saying, hey, instead of having the TV running in the background when no one's actually watching it, let's turn it off. What if we make a meal together and we don't have anything playing in the background? Maybe there's a little bit of conversation, but mostly we're just enjoying the quiet, the natural quiet that's already there. And again, nature is a wonderful teacher for this in silence. So I want to invite you to explore silence in your life and what it feels like at first and what it feels like as you continue to allow that silence. I think you'll find that it feels very nourishing. And I'm going to leave you with a quote. Muddy water, let stand, becomes clear. Lao Tzu. So silence is one of your many tools for feeling less anxious and more awesome, for clearing your mind and clearing the channel so that you can receive the messages about the truth of who you are. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your presence, your willingness to explore your expansion into your highest self, your best self. Please subscribe to our channel if this is the kind of a thing that you're interested in learning more about and exploring and having affirmed as a lifestyle with other families like yours. Share it with another family who might be like, yeah, that's kind of fun. Let's try that together and compare notes. You can leave a comment if you'd like to about your experience. Have an awesome day.